Planning Commission to order. Mr. Jeff, would you call the roll, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Raymond Albert.
Present.
Linda Hayes.
Here.
Debbie Brewer.
Here.
Connie Reed.
Here.
Elizabeth Littleton is out.
Okay. Has everyone had time to look over the minutes of September 10th meeting?
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve the minutes. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Any more comments? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, minutes approved. I think Mr. Jeff is coming to get
Any other comments, please?
a list of people that's requested to speak.
All in favor, look out, my boy.
Okay. Yeah. Ms. Linda, I'd like to talk about the low and density zoning for property owner. And Ms. Linda?
Sorry, I don't know.
Yes, ma'am, your comment, please.
The only thing I wanted to say is that everything that starts out as individual residency, we all want this town to grow, but we really don't have the infrastructure now, plus everything that starts out as residential has been ended up as R3. And I feel like I don't feel like we have enough people who are vested in owning it. You know, I see the little signs for all of these R3 developments that say there's a management company. Well, I don't want the management companies to be so prevalent in this village or this town that individuals who have a vested interest in where we live and why we live here should not have the right to have other people who are just as invested as we are. If you have people in an R3 situation, they're not as likely to always stay long-term and want everything invested for the best in the village or the town. So I just wanted to say that I really think we have to consider infrastructure and overdevelopment. I don't want management companies running what's good, what they think is good for us. That's all.
All right, thank you. And next, Mr. Strickland, regarding the planning board for purpose of the Highway 70 Church Street. Ms. Strickland.
Will you come up now? Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I do live on Church Street, and I'm concerned about the proposed development at the end of the street. I'm in support of small government, but when what others do on their property directly affects me, then I have to defer to the local government. A development at the end of Church Street is going to directly affect my way of living. I have a teenage driver with 2 more to follow him, and it's dangerous for me right now to back out of my driveway because of the speed at which individuals are coming down Church Street. Then multiply that by the 60 or so additional vehicles that are going to be using Church Street if they only have access by Church Street and there's no left turning lane. All people are going to do is drive up a little farther to where Church Street cuts in, and there's still going to be a traffic issue with 60 additional vehicles accessing Church Street into this new development. This is going to hold up traffic, and Church Street is already fairly narrow. There are no sidewalks, there are no speed bumps, so I can't even take an afternoon stroll down Church Street without fear of somebody flying around the corner. I don't think growth is a bad thing, but neither is being a small town. And as we plan for the future, I do hope we're making White Bluff a desirable end destination and not just allowing developers to come in who have no true vested interest in our community. So I love this town and I love being here.
All right, Thank you. Okay. Next is Mr. Charles Buck on considered possible new development on Westside Road. That's right.
How you doing? Is this about the name change? Right?
Pardon?
The name change of the roads? I think that's what I signed for.
Mr. Chairman, he has 3 minutes to speak on anything related to the agenda. There is street naming on here, but
Okay.
it's not changing a specific name, if that's the question, but he has 3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. My concern and what I'd like to talk about in front of the board here is I've heard talk about changing the name of a road because it offended somebody. I oppose anybody wanting to change anything on roads just because it offends somebody, especially if it that person moves into a place and that road name or city name is already there. Don't move there then, okay? If that person happens to get the whole street involved and wants everybody to change the name of the road, kudos to them, good on them. But for somebody to come into a town that's wanting to change names just because it offends them, you need to get a robust and a policy in place so that you can save those street names. Because before you know it, and it's going to happen, you're going to have to change the name of White Bluff. Because white offends somebody. So that's what I'm getting at. You need to get, like you guys are talking about a robust policy. You need to do that. Okay? It's the same thing as I did a report years ago. People moving into an area where there's an airport. They raised Cain with the airport. Well, the airport can't move. But they wanted the airport to shut down or move because of the noise. You're going to have the same situation here. It all starts with one name change. And then somebody else is going to come up and say, well, I'm offended to this, or I want this changed. And you guys don't have a policy or a process. You need a process and a policy in place, and whether it's in the development stage or later on in the process, so be it. But I'm just giving you a fair warning that you got one now, you're going to have more. Okay? I moved into the town of White Bluff. Great town. I wouldn't change anything. You guys are doing a great job. But I don't want to see it decline because other people are moving in here and they're moving in quick. You guys are approving a lot of Part 3s. So you're going to have more, and you're going to have more of this. Well, I'm offended to this. I'm offended to that. I could easily say, I don't want Palestine as a road sign. Okay? You see what I'm getting at? So, please, get yourselves together, make a robust policy and process, and save this town. Okay? That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I see it? That's all of the speakers. Moving right along. Consider the plan for the service and traffic assessment for real property.
Mr. Chair,
Annex.
I'm sorry. You've got a public hearing first.
Okay, I'm sorry. I skipped over that one, excuse me. I think we have closed the meeting and opened up the public hearing. Anybody speak on that?
This is for the property, annexation of property across from actually Hog Heaven, Highway 70 East, map 095, parcel 072.00.
And specifically the plan of services.
Plan of
That's what
services.
this public hearing is on.
Okay.
Anyone here to speak on the public hearing for the plan service? All right, we'll close the public hearing down. Now we'll move on to consider the service effective traffic assessment for the real property annex by the owner considering the annexed property identified in Dixon County, 095 parcel 07200 located Highway 70 east across from Highway 70 from the old previous Hog Heaven. Mr. Underhill and, anyone here to speak to that? Mr. Alex, you,
Yes, sir, Mr. Underhill's in here. We're looking to purchase this property, looking for the annexation into the city so that we can move forward with our future plans. One of the requirements in our last month's planning commission meetings was to bring in a traffic assessment. We have provided the traffic assessment to you for your review, pending any of your questions.
Ms. Amanda, do you have anything on the traffic assessment?
I do not.
Mr. Andrew?
Mr. Chairman, no, we talked about it briefly on Thursday. I looked at it further. It appears to comply with our guidelines. So, 8 units, they have the projected trips. And that's aiding this body in its recommendation, that traffic assessment. If this body sends it up, we'll go to the town council as well. They'll get to see it.
Okay. Anything else? All right,
Basically, 2 and 3 kind of go together, right?
They do, but they need separate votes.
Separate
So we need a
votes, okay.
vote considering the plan of, or recommending the plan of services up to the town council, and then the next one would be the R1 zoning.
all right. Do I hear a motion then to refer it on to the town council?
Make a motion to approve the plan of services and the traffic assessment for the annexation for this property.
I
I have a
second.
motion. I have a second.
I second.
A second. Any more comments? Questions? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay, it looks like we'll send that on to the town council, Mr. Alex.
Now we'll need to take up the R1, just a vote on the R1 zoning,
Take a vote on the next, the zoning of it.
Yeah, okay.
also with this property.
And now then to consider the R1 low intensity zoning of real property proposal annex by the owner. He considered the annex of the property identified in Dixon County map 095 parcel 07200 located Highway 70 east across from the old previously Hog Heaven. And then Mr. Alex, that would be you on the low intensity.
Yes, sir.
Have anything to add in that?
No changes to from what we submitted.
Mr. Amanda?
At the backside of that property, too.
Yes, Alex. Anyone else?
Make a motion, we send it to the council with R1 zoning.
All right, I have a motion, we send it to town council. I hear a second.
Second.
And a second. Any more comments? Questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Looks like we'll send it on to town council, Mr. Alex.
Yes, sir.
All right. book for purpose of Highway 70, Church Street. So, that'd be you again.
That is me. So ladies and gentlemen, I have some copies here, some new information that we have found, in just reviewing the town site. It is the comprehensive, 2043 plan of Dixon, and Dixon County, and, let's see what this is in addition to, this is from the town website, it's the 2043 comprehensive plan. And what it shows, the county website, what it actually depicts on here is that it depicts on your second page, page 85, an ID S3 on Broadway Street. And what that means is this is a short-term and long-term plan for future development of this road and broadening of this road. And Project S3 on your third page, and I'll read it out loud. It's a 2-lane road, segment runs east to west between 47 and 47 South, has no median, several driveways are present in the segment, particularly on the north side of the road. Currently, this agreement is operated at a level of service D and has safety issues. According to TDOT, accident management reported delay in average crash rate of roadways within a 2-way left turning lane is less than that of undivided roads, therefore changing median from no median to two-way lane. The TWLTL is left turn lanes, 2 left turn lanes. It's expected to help left turning lanes, thus improving mobility. In Table 18, if you look at your it actually says potential funding sources for this, and it names significant funding sources, both federal, non-federal, and then local, that can be used for this purpose. And on this page, it also shows, on the last page, it actually shows you the map that talks about that short-term and long-term plan. So, and that is the widening of this road. So,
it's the third recommended project in the 2043 plan. It's effectively from 47 to 47, an additional widening.
that was just, we found out today, that's why it wasn't in your initial submission. So, this is part of our delays, submitting that, or your review of it, but, so, I don't know if you had, I don't know if you had an opportunity to review the, our turning lane. I think that was one of the biggest, feedback that we received. We tried to go back and kind of talk about what we did and providing the 3 options. I don't know if you have those 3 options in front of you today. Pending any of your questions, we made all the comments, all the revisions requested on that last planning commission meeting. If you have any questions, I can try to help answer you.
Any comments on that one?
I'm going to defer my comments until I hear from the rest, if you don't mind. I'm going to defer my comments.
Mr. Andrew?
Mr. Chairman, I guess if we want to talk about Highway 70 for a moment, just to kind of give you all parameters, kind of where we are with this. Obviously, the applicant did a traffic impact study for this site. The first thing I want to bring to this body's attention is that it was recommended based upon the town engineer's review and then confirming in our subdivision regulations that Church Street should be widened to 24 feet. It's called for in the subdivision regulations. It's also a recommendation by the town's engineer. That will alleviate some concerns there. It's currently, I think, about 20 feet, and given its situation as a rural collector, it should be 24 feet as called for in the subdivision regulations. So I think this body should know that. One of the alternatives offered by the applicant is a deceleration lane into what I'm calling the main entrance, not the right in, right out, the full entrance. Our engineer is not here today, so I've asked that they come to whatever the next meeting is, whether it's this body or the council. Our engineer has only reviewed the traffic impact study for compliance with the guidelines. I did ask them to look at what are ways of addressing some of the concerns on Highway 70, and there's more than just one, right? I don't have their full analysis back yet, so I think I can kind of relay to you what was told to me, and you'll kind of take that into consideration. So you have one deceleration lane here into the main entrance, and let me sidestep for a moment. A lot of this is based upon the recently adopted safety action plan of, hey, where are the concerns in the town, right? Per that plan, about 2/3 of accidents in the town occur on 47 or 70. So I think that's probably where some of the concern is coming from. Previously, the previous iteration of this PUD, one of the contingencies was the inclusion of a center lane property line to property line, right? This is a new submission, so it's at this body's discretion on what you recommend. Ultimately, the town council will decide what the final contingencies are. So that's still out there as a possibility. The town engineer has said, a turn lane will make things safer. Getting cars out of the flow of traffic to turn in will certainly help. That's probably the most aggressive improvement on 70 that can happen, and I think one of the concerns is you're going to be going, if you're going from west to east, and again, I'm quoting from memory here, but it's 2 lanes, and then hypothetically it would be 3 lanes, and then it would go back to 2 lanes, and then you get to 47. That's a little odd, but there are a couple of alternatives that the engineers were going to look into. One is a deceleration lane at both entrances, because the benefit of that is getting people off of the thoroughfare should make it safer from an engineering perspective. It'll also allow for, if a center lane were ever put in, you already have the roadway with those deceleration lanes there for whenever it's done all the way to 47 in one fell swoop. So that's something to think about. Again, I would want the town's engineer to come and talk about that. The other one that was talked about, and this is actually kind of prescient, there's a development next to Anchor Building Supply on Highway 96 that put in not a full center turn lane, but a center left turn. It is a section of widening on 96 that occurred where cars can come off of the main right-of-way and turn into the site. It's not very long, maybe 5 or 8 cars can get out of the way, but that's a center left turn lane. It's not just the full bore, anybody, any direction can be in that middle lane. It would just be there. Now, given the fact that there are entrances on the north side of 70 opposite these entrances, that may not be recommended. Again, the engineers are going to have to look at options. So all of that is to say, I think there are ways of addressing the safety concerns on Highway 70 that have been expressed and found through the safety action plan. A deceleration lane is a step in the right direction. 2, maybe 2 steps in the right direction. But I think that's something for this body to consider when dealing with Highway 70 directly. Again, I already talked about Church Street. I think that should be a contingency coming out of this body. That's my recommendation, that Church Street be expanded to 24 feet, both per the town's engineer and our subdivision regulations. But it's at the discretion of this body to make the contingency. And then let me step back a moment. Keep in mind, we're not just here talking about traffic. This is the entire PUD. the entire 500-plus page pattern book. If there's anything you want to bring up, bring it up today, because if there is a vote to recommend this on to the town council, you've made that recommendation, it's not coming back to you unless there's an amendment down the road. So I encourage you certainly to look at the traffic concerns, but also anything else you want to bring up in the PUD, you need to bring up today. If you need more time, you can certainly defer, but I would bring it up today so that everybody knows kind of what's on this body's mind in terms of next steps. PUD is a large process. You're combining zoning and your preliminary plat, your site plan, all design review, all into one process. So it is a lot, but don't just focus on one thing. Kind of look at it all if there's anything y'all want to bring up. So I've been talking for a minute, so I will defer, Mr. Chairman, to you and the planning commission.
Okay.
And this is for you, Andrew. You said you talked to our engineers and they're coming to whatever the next meeting is about this, right?
We've asked them to come,
Okay.
yes, and they will be there.
As far as I'm concerned, I would like, before I pass it up, I'd like to hear what they say about 70, about church, about both of them, about both pieces of it.
So I have a question. Church Street, I'm all about it being widened. We have a lot of residentials, we have a lot of residences out there. We've already got some property on Church Street too that is already zoned commercial. We have one man that owns the whole entire block, and it's already zoned commercial. So I guess that has opened my eyes up to something new today, about the width and Church Street has not been paved or reconstructed, anything. Now, excuse me, I'll start this again. But I'm not sure, and I've been in this business now for almost 25 years, I guess, and I don't think it's been, that I can remember, repaved or done anything to Church Street in my 25 years. So I'm going to throw that in on top of this to see if, when we look at this, how much, that maybe the city could look, because next year I'm hoping, and I don't know the administration at that time, but maybe would do a capital loan project and do some much needed paving now that's ready to be done in Whitebluff. Maybe this could be part of it. I think that would address some safety concerns. We can't stop traffic. We just can't. No matter, we can't. I mean, we're just going to have traffic. And we have traffic. I say this all the time. I live right on 70, right there on 70 in the middle of town. I live, I feel like, in a glass house. But a lot of the traffic I see that comes by is not even our citizens. They're coming, they're using 70 from Dixon, from Charlotte, from Burns, from, then people are coming the other way, getting into Dixon and Charlotte and places, so it's time, I understand, for us to look at, and go along with our safety plan that we adopted. So, I would like to hear from our engineers, definitely, on what they think all of this needs to be handled. So I would like to defer even sending it up to the council until we hear from the engineers, until we hear what part too the city is going to play in this. And maybe alleviate some of this stuff.
There's also the piece of the commercial that we talked about in the work session, that we kind of want some assurances, if you will, that it's not going to take 20 years to build some commercial, because if it is, then that development's not what we...
We put a schedule in the pattern book showing the implementation schedule.
And I just want to just make sure it's for the record too. Our plan is to build the commercial after the residential is built out, make sure that there's actually an insulating body there to And then that'll also be built out as, we have leasees. So, for me to, promise you that I'm going to build it, simultaneously, that's just not, that's really irresponsible for me to tell you. And then the timeline that is on there is a projected timeline. Again, for me to promise something to you, say I'm gonna build this time, is also irresponsible for me to tell you that. So I just wanna make sure I clarify that, and you understand that. There's no, I will lease the space. If the space is not leased by somebody that's going to pay me a 5-year or 10-year lease, and I don't have a contract, then it'd be foolish to go into. So you want some of the bigger spots to be leased, and then the other little spots will come in. Those are cheaper to build. So just want to make sure that I clarify that.
Well, to piggyback then on what Ms. Reed is saying, if you build a residential, what is it gonna look like in front until the commercial is built?
Well,
I understand your predicament and what you're saying, but what
That's a
would it
great
look like
question.
then?
It's going to meet the TDEC standards to make sure that the entire site is stabilized, make sure that there's no, it's not red dirt. It's going to definitely look a lot better than what it looks like right now, because we're going to actually, technically, that needs to be stabilized, and we have to, but we're going to stub out all the utilities to that site. And again, I just want to clarify, so because we're stubbing out the utilities, we're spending the money in developing those to be built, so vertical construction for actual retail stores and the rest of that was said to be built. So we have a lot of motivation to ensure that we actually get our money out of that project and actually make some profits. So for it to just to sit there with all the utilities there is not a good thing for us. I want to just make a comment that this project has been going on for some time. We have submitted the traffic study, then we increased the traffic density, and then again it was requested that we get another traffic study, which we did. That traffic study was submitted. It was reviewed by the town engineer. Last month it was, let's defer it again, and then it just, I would ask that we take into consideration that we are doing everything in our power, and every time that we come to this body, that we ask that there is, some consideration of timelines for us.
Well, I mean, you have an approved plan in place. We did that last year, I don't even know. But, so, now this is a whole brand new thing that we've got to go through.
Yes, ma'am, I agree. What do you need from us is there any homework that we need to do for the deferral? Just want to make sure that I understand if I have anything that we have to do in our team.
Not that if I may, Mr. Chairman, not that I can think of at the moment. The other thing, sort of feedback that I think we would want to kind of address before the next meeting is whatever the town's engineer recommends with that, and if this body were to take that, reduce it, increase it, whatever it is, it would need to be, and this can go up to the council at that point if y'all kind of know what direction you're going, it would need to be an addendum to the traffic study, because it's going to be needed for TDOT anyway. They're going to need to see what the impact of whatever that improvement, deceleration lane or whatever. But I think that's not something y'all have to see immediately. It's more, what is the thing, and that can, because remember, this has to go to 2 readings at town council. So there is a couple more meetings after this body takes action. But that's not homework for right now. I think that would be homework probably after the next meeting. But if something does come up, we'll certainly communicate that.
I just don't, maybe, I just want to make sure that I understand, like, logistically how this is going to happen. So next month, we're going to have someone that's going to come in and speak to the comments that they wrote from reviewing our traffic study, right? And
No.
giving their recommendation?
No.
That-
No, it'll be much broader than that.
Okay. But then, so I'll be, okay. Can we get some of that done so that we could actually have some ideas of what that's going to be? Because given that this is a dialogue, if the person says, hey, I actually want you to build an interstate right in front of Highway 70, and I'm going to be standing right here, I'm going to have to do a financial analysis on that. And I don't think I'm going to be in a position to be standing here when somebody, when your engineer does whatever recommendation that they're going to do for the body to vote on, to be like, hey, HPG, are you able to build an interstate here? Or are you able to build Taj Mahal, or whatever it is that we want to build? I want to be able to have the time to do that analysis and not keep on deferring it. I'm just a little confused about the engineer that is.
Is this being deferred? We're not deferring this.
I think that's where this is going.
There's no vote on the floor right now.
Yeah,
We're in
I
discussion.
what I would request, I think would be appropriate, is if we could have a plan, and if we could say, figure out the traffic situation contingent on whatever the traffic situation that is then approved by the council at the recommendation of the engineer, because we have to work that out.
I don't think that we know what our questions are to even ask him to be able to give you that information until the engineer actually talks to us. There's nothing that we can tell you that would give you that information until we know what to ask.
I think, if I may, that there will be the ability to have conversations with the applicant prior to your next meeting. I don't think that will be a problem communicating, but the PUD process is a process. There's a lot of considerations that come into it. The town received the traffic impact study. That was reviewed. Questions came from the traffic impact study. They were directed to the town's engineer, and more items have come up. I mean, I don't know how long we've had option 2, the deceleration lane, but not terribly long, so that is new in terms of seeing it on the map, because that was not in your plans when the traffic impact study was done and reviewed by the town engineer. So again, when new elements come into play, things have to get reviewed. I'm also concerned, and this is to the benefit of the applicant, if this body doesn't weigh in on an item and then it comes up at the council, it may have to come back to this body. It is more efficient for this body to weigh in on everything, and the council could choose not to adopt certain things this body's weighed in on, but if it's something brand new, it would probably have to come back down to this body. So from a efficiency standpoint, I think this body needs to look at everything. And to that point, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I know Ms. Harrington hasn't weighed in on any other aspects, but if I may ask, is there anything that you've seen in terms of the pattern book that needs to be addressed separate from what we've already talked about today?
Not that I've seen. They were responsive to all of the comments that I brought up, and I verified that it made it in there, so I appreciate the responsiveness.
I did have a couple of questions just to confirm what I'm seeing. All right, it says on here,
The county map on that.
the county map, yes, but it says S3 says Broad Street and State Road 47 North and 47 South. Well, I thought 47 North and 47 South was in front of Broad Street, which is 70, and I thought 47 West was up here past Church Street. And that's what's confusing me about a turning lane possibly in the future. And then also,
You understand, those are the extent of the improvement
That was recommended.
that was recommended in the county's 2043, okay.
and that was my other question was, all right, it's a 20-year plan. I mean, we can't wait 20 years for a turning lane, for sure.
It's the third project in that plan. which, again, I don't know how quick that would be.
Yes.
And they budgeted, and I forget, it's $1 million and some change for that project. And the reason I bring up that million is if you're expecting him to take on that million, that's, might not be feasible for this project. Or I should say, it's not feasible for this project.
Right.
I'm just thinking that turn lane is just a have to. In my opinion, but that's, you know, I'm not the expert.
In my opinion, if I was to say, you know, would I want a turn lane everywhere? Yeah, probably. I think given the safety action plan, given the fact that I think the speed limit has been reduced to 35 miles an hour throughout 30, yeah. So I think given the parameters that we have right now, 30 miles an hour, the traffic that we have, you know, there are, and this third page does show, there are monies, federal and state monies that exist, and there's a process that we can go through to request certain projects to be done. And I think, yet again, you know, because this is going to take, right, so we got to look at what are the benefits. We're going to bring in commercial jobs. Those commercial jobs are going to, you know, those retail jobs, they're going to create jobs, they're going to create revenue for the town. Those houses are going to create a tax revenue base. Like, there's a lot of positives. But as we, and I discussed that during the plan, you know, the work session, as we just add things to this, ma'am, it just, to the point, and it becomes a non-feasible project. And then, is the counterpoint where if that just stays red dirt there, is that better or worse? That's just something that we have to kind of juggle and see what's better for the town. We're very excited about the project. We think it's going to be a good thing for White Bluff. We obviously had numerous instances to say, you know what, let's just walk away from it, and we did it. This updated traffic study cost $14,900. So every single thing that is being asked by this body, Trent likes me a lot, but he doesn't like me that much. So he charged me for every minute of his time, and he should. And so do all these other external parties. But as we just keep on going on, it's just like, hey, at the end of the day, it's going to be to a point where it's just not a feasible project, we just have to walk from it. So I'd ask that you guys take that into consideration. Not that, with safety being paramount, and it is. We don't take it lightly, but our third option was that we provide, when the vertical project gets a certificate of occupancy for the commercial, prior to certificate of occupancy being approved, we provide the town with monies to be spent on projects such as this. So I think we're trying to do our part. We discussed all the other environmental factors that caused us to change this project from, a lot of, Ms. Reed mentioned the project. This is, we already have an approved plan. The town attorney mentioned that there's already an approved plan. Given just the circumstances, it's not a feasible plan. I cannot build, 30-foot deep house. I'll try, but I can't. Just can't do it. So it kills 12 single-family homes on the performer. They kill, so that. Again, I just want to clarify. My initial intent was not to put in a pump station, right? Now the Dixon Water Authority does not like grinder pumps, but in my initial plan, I submitted that we wanted to put grinder pumps. So I want to clarify that I wasn't trying to talk down about the Water Authority or anything like that. It's just the reality is that the Water Authority assessed that my plan was not something that they wanted to maintain, that grinder pumps cost money to maintain, and a pump station would be a better product for that subdivision. When that occurred, for that to happen, there's an easement that has to take place around that pump station. That killed an additional 2 townhomes on that project. So there's everything that is asked, and when we go through the design, monies are added to the budget, and sometimes it just goes over to where it's not a feasible thing. So we take away profits from a project like townhomes and single-family homes, and there's no monies to be made to be paid for the things that we need to build. So it's just basic arithmetic. I just ask that you guys take that into consideration. We are a for-profit business.
Well, we're not trying to take money away from you either, but we live in the town and we wanna make sure it's safe for whoever's turning, there's a lot of wrecks.
Safety's paramount for me. I don't want to build something that's not safe. So I just want to make sure that we clarify that.
I understand all of the, things are being added, as cost is being added. And I have been on board with this project from the beginning. However, I have been on board given the fact that it would be safe on our roadways. And until our engineer weighs in on what is needed, what we need to do, and answers our questions, I cannot vote on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Someone made the statement that if we did a turning lane, that eventually then when, I guess what I'm wanting to know is to know, it's time to ask you or not, but I'm asking, cost-wise, what's it going to cost you to add a turning lane versus a center lane?
A center lane, because it's a state road, the cross section, what I mean by that, the amount of rock and the amount of the depth of a state road requirement on how they want it built. If you consider like a 2x6 wall compared to a 2x4 wall if you're building a house, right? So that is there's a lot more requirements on that, and also there's additional requirements where it's a state-approved contractor. There's costs are higher.
The center turning lane that we all have been talking about was, I believe, 800 feet-ish, I'm saying ish, long. The right-hand turning lane, deceleration lane, if I remember correctly, is on the 150-foot range. And it's not 12 foot wide the full distance. There's a taper that is approximately half of that distance. So it's probably a quarter or 1/5 of the amount of construction compared to the center turn lane. That's kind of the best way to describe it.
Well, we're excited, and I just want to get but we have some assurances that the person that's actually going to be in attendance next month, or we have all the comments back that we need for the questions asked, just so we don't defer it yet again. That'd be.
I don't know what any assurance can be given. We've requested that they come. If things come up and this body chooses in its deliberative nature to defer again, they can. Sure. I understand that you don't want them to, but once they are comfortable with the project, I'm sure they will vote. And we're just working through a process. But we're going to try to have the town engineer here next month.
Temple. Any questions?
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion that we defer this action until we speak with our engineers and have them at our next meeting, hopefully.
Thank you.
Have a motion to defer. Do I hear a second? And a second. Any more comments, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Action deferred.
Deferred means, next November planning session, correct? No.
Yeah, it's October, so it'll be November.
It'll be November, yeah. This year's not
Anything else, Mr. Jeff?
You got the back.
Next page. Backside.
Try to pass this out before the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, this is an extension from Thursday of the process for naming roads. I think from our discussion and what Ms. Harrington had sent, I just put together a bullet point list of considerations that would be adopted into the subdivision regulations. But it's what we talked about. So street names cannot exceed USPS recommended maximum length, 15 characters, only one correct official name. The right-of-way should be appropriate with preferred one-word primary street name and may promote tradition, history, geography, character. Frivolous or complicated, sorry I said words there, words or unconventional spellings should not be used. You want it to be easily remembered and identified for emergency purposes. Special characters are not permitted. Roman numerals are not permitted. No duplication of road names within the region. And what that really means is you can't have a Cathy Road with a K and then a Cathy Road with a C. That's going to cause confusion. Offensive, libelous, or derogatory right-of-way names in spelling or pronunciation are prohibited. I think that was kind of the big thrust from let's make sure not to have that. And then the last point is really where I think I need direction, we need direction. The Planning Commission may reject a right-of-way name and require a compliant name, per the above, at the time of consideration of the preliminary or final plat. Again, we're not trying to make it hard after lots have been sold. It needs to happen before then. So that's what I put together based upon discussion. Again, there's any number of ways that this can go. So let me know your thoughts, questions, or comments.
I like all of this. The only question I've got is, can they hyphenate a name? Is that considered a?
That's a special character, no.
So, okay.
So it should just be two separate words then, right?
It should be two separate words. There's a preference for one word.
Right.
It's not
Right.
required, but it's a preference for one word. No special characters, including hyphens.
Okay.
But if this body is comfortable with something along these lines, if you don't have any edits, or please let us know your edits, we would need to find an appropriate place to put it in the subdivision regulations and bring it back to you next month, because we have to have a public hearing on amending the subdivision regulations.
We have to vote on that right now? I mean, you want us to vote to do that? Or?
No, just
Okay.
any thoughts you have. We will bring back to you what you're going to vote on, but I wanted you to see a draft before we actually create the formal amendment.
I'm good with all this.
I am too.
Yeah.
Can we add site plan to the bottom one? I know we think about it in terms of
You're right.
subdivision, but could we add site plan?
That's a good point, Jeff, yes.
That's the last, on the last
Yes.
statement. Okay.
And we'll have a public hearing.
In November. And Amanda and I can figure out where we want to put this in the subdivision regulations. Odd standalone sometimes.
Okay. Anything else that much, Jeff?
Yes, sir. The next item on accessory structures.
This is
You know what?
plans.
Number 5.
Oh, okay. I didn't turn the sheet over. Continuing investment, Shell's Way.
No, sir, it's the one right above it. Consider an ordinance to amend the Town of White Bluff zoning ordinance, Article 3,
Yeah,
accessory structures.
okay. That's Miss Amanda.
It is, thank you. So this, as we discussed at work session, this is a cleanup item, and more of a robust regulatory item for our accessory structures. requirements in Article 3 of our zoning ordinance. The document that you have before you today, has some narrowing down of some requirements that I can just go over briefly, because there were some edits from the work session that I want to be sure that get into today's discussion as well. The primary change in the description here is that construction of accessory buildings shall not begin before consultation and proper permitting by the town of White Bluff. That's one of the primary changes that is being proposed, is that the accessory structures would be subject to a standard residential permit, and that was at the recommendation and request of our building official. The rest of this is more of a nip and tuck, if you will, of the existing section, with the following language for Article 3, clarifying that accessory buildings are to be in rear yards only. The second, that they are subject to standard residential permit fees, which is what I had just indicated as a request from the building official. No accessory building shall be allowed to have an address different than the principal structure to which it's subordinate. No accessory building may have a separate utility meter from the main building it supports unless the local public authority provides written proof that it is necessary. That was a question. In the event that there's a pool or something, and the electric company says, no, it really needs to have its own meter or whatnot, then that's perfectly fine. But other than that, it's all going to be on the same meter. Any accessory building shall adhere to the underlying zoning regulations of the lot on which it's located. Point F, single wide trailers, recreational vehicles, cargo containers, portable storage, on-demand containers, and other structures similar in construction and intent shall not be permitted as accessory buildings. The construction of accessory buildings shall comply with all local and state regulatory requirements concerning zoning, building, health, and safety. And then finally, as defined by the International Building Code as adopted, accessory buildings may not have a full kitchen. So that is those are the proposed amendments to Article 3. In our discussion later on, we also talked about Article 5 and a cleanup item that is located in Article 5 in the R1, 2, and R3 zoning districts. Signs as regulated in Article 4, Section 4.070 is located as an accessory use in each of the four listed. Signs are not really an accessory use. They have their own protections. They have their own section in the zoning ordinance in a completely different article. And so upon consultation with legal and permission with Jeff, I ask that you all also consider removing that portion from accessory uses and structures and buildings, just to keep it clean and separate. I'm happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Do you know accessory building may have separate utility meter? What if it's got, if someone's got a at-home business and they have a building out back where they run their business?
No separate utilities.
Unless it's prohibited.
Okay. Anything else on that? Okay, now, Mr. Jeff.
You need to have a motion on whether or not to recommend this on up to the town council, Mr. Chair.
This will be a zoning ordinance amendment, so it's just a motion to recommend favorably or unfavorably and send it on to town council.
I'm gonna make a motion to recommend favorably up to the council.
I have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Here's a second. Any more comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we recommend that on to the county council.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, I keep wanting to get to you, Mr. Jeff, you got anything that I want?
So the last thing for today, Mr. Chairman, is consider the dedication of Shells Way and Bell Circle and Bell Forge subdivision. We talked about this on Thursday. I'm asking the planning commission to recommend acceptance of Shells Way and Bell Circle And I'm asking the planning commission to set a one-year maintenance bond amount of $22,500.
All right. I hear a motion for the Deception waiver of the bond.
I'll make the motion.
22.5.
All right, we have a motion made, I hear a second.
I'll second.
And a second. Any more comments? Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Looks like we'll accept that and we'll go on.
Thank you.
Now, is there anything else, Mr. Chairman?
No, sir.
All right, I hear a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.